Welcome back to the still past. Tonight, we travel east to a quiet morning in ancient China. The mist rises gently over tiled rooftops. Bamboo leaves whisper in the soft breeze. Somewhere in the distance, a wooden bell marks the beginning of a new day. There is no rush here. Only the slow rhythm of tea being poured, ink touching paper, and footsteps along a quiet stone path. Before the sun is fully awake, the city already breathes. A pale light rests gently on the tiled rooftops, softening their edges, turning stone and wood into quiet silhouettes. Mist drifts low through the streets, curling around corners, lingering beneath bridges, and rising slowly from the river like a long, patient sigh. This is a city of many lives. But at this hour, it belongs only to those who rise early, and to those who never truly sleep. Lanterns still glow faintly beneath the eaves of wooden houses. Their warm amber light fades slowly, not extinguished, but gently surrendered to the coming day. A single lantern sways in the breeze, its paper sides whispering softly as the wind passes through. Somewhere far away, a temple bell sounds. Not loud, not urgent, just a single, deep note, floating across rooftops and courtyards, sliding through the mist, settling into the heart of the city. It is not a command to wake. It is an invitation. The narrow streets remain quiet. Stone paths, smoothed by centuries of footsteps, still hold the cool of the night. A thin sheen of dew glistens where moonlight once fell. Now, that same dew reflects the earliest hints of gold from the east. A man opens a wooden door. The sound is soft, deliberate. Wood against wood. A hinge moving slowly, as if careful not to disturb the silence. He steps outside and pauses. Not to look for anyone. Not to hurry anywhere. But simply to feel the morning. He pulls his robe closer around his shoulders. Breath visible for just a moment in the cool air. Then gone. Across the street, another door opens. Then another. The city awakens not all at once, but in fragments. A broom touches stone. Slow strokes. Left to right. Right to left. Dust from yesterday's footsteps lifts briefly into the air, before settling again. Lighter than before. A woman sweeps the front of her shop. Her movements unhurried, almost meditative. She stops once, looks down the street, then resumes, as if there is now her. As the sun continues its slow ascent, the city responds almost imperceptibly. Light reaches deeper now, sliding into narrow streets that moments ago belonged only to shadow. The stone beneath each step warms slightly, holding the promise of the day without demanding it. Shutters open one by one. Not thrown wide, but lifted carefully, as though each shopkeeper were opening a window into the morning itself. Wooden panels creak softly, their voices familiar, worn smooth by years of repetition. Inside, shelves wait patiently, their contents arranged the night before, trusting the morning to arrive as it always does. A cart rolls slowly along the main road. Its wheels turn without haste. Wood against stone. A gentle rhythm that settles into the air and becomes part of it. The man guiding it walks beside, one hand resting lightly on the handle, eyes forward but untroubled. He stops at a corner, adjusts the load, tightens a rope, breathes. Nothing presses him onward. At the edge of the street, a tea house door stands open. Inside, the room is still dim. Lanterns unlit now. Their work complete. Low tables wait. Cups rest upside down, their porcelain catching the faintest glimmer of light. Water warms in a kettle, not yet boiling, just beginning. A thin thread of steam rises, twists once, then disappears. The owner moves quietly, each gesture practiced, each movement flowing into the next. He rinses a cup, sets it down, straightens a cloth. Outside, the street listens. More people appear now, though the city never feels crowded. They pass each other with ease, like fish in a slow-moving stream. A woman balances baskets on a pole across her shoulders. The vegetables inside are fresh, leaves still cool with morning moisture. She adjusts her grip and continues on, her step steady, her pace unchanging. A pair of scholars walk together, their conversation no more than a murmur. One gestures gently, drawing an invisible line in the air. The other nods, as though the morning has fully unfolded now. What began as mist and shadow has become shape and color. What was once silent has found its gentle voice. And yet, the city has not lost its softness. Sunlight rests warmly on the tiled roofs, spilling downward in patient waves. The last traces of dew vanish from the stone paths, lifting invisibly into the warming air. A quiet confidence settles over everything. On the bridge, movement continues, but there is no sense of hurry. Each crossing feels intentional, each step placed with quiet certainty. An elderly man pauses midway, leaning slightly on a carved wooden cane. He does not seem tired. He is simply observing. Below him, the river moves in wide, unbroken ribbons. A boat glides past, its oar dipping with practiced grace. The sound is rhythmic, Wood touching water. Water yielding. Then closing again. He watches until the boat disappears beneath the arch of the bridge. Only then does he move on. Along the market street. Preparations have shifted into presents. Stalls are no longer being arranged. They are ready. Bundles of herbs sit in small woven trays. Ceramic bowls catch sunlight along their rims. Silk hangs quietly, its surface glowing with muted richness. The baker lifts the lid of the clay oven. Warm air escapes in a slow breath. He removes a round of bread and places it on a wooden board. The crust crackles faintly as it cools. He does not slice it yet. He allows it to rest. Across the way, a young apprentice carefully brushes dust from a signboard. The painted characters stand firm and clear. He steps back to inspect his work, tilts his head slightly, then nods to himself. A sense of completion hums softly through the street. At the tea house, cups are no longer empty. Steam rises in delicate spirals. Guests sit quietly. Some alone. Some in pairs. One man gazes through the open doorway at the movement outside. His fingers trace the rim of his cup absent-mindedly. Not from impatience. The market does not arrive suddenly. It gathers. From many small movements. From footsteps that drift inward. From hands carrying baskets, bundles, crates, and cloth. From voices that remain low, even as they multiply. The street that will soon become full is still breathing calmly. Sunlight now reaches directly into the market avenue, sliding between roof lines and settling gently on the stone below. The surface of the road, worn smooth by centuries of trade, reflects the light in soft patches. Never bright. Never harsh. Shadows remain present. But they are thinner now. Drawn close to walls and beneath carts, where they rest without resistance. The first stalls are already open, not announcing themselves, not calling out. They simply exist. A wooden table here, a woven mat there, baskets arranged carefully at knee height, crates stacked with intention rather than speed. A man kneels beside his stall, adjusting the position of ceramic bowls. He turns each one slightly, aligning them so the rims catch the light evenly. A small chip appears on one edge. He notices, sets that bowl aside without frustration. There is time to be selective. Nearby, a woman unfolds cloth. She lifts it slowly, allowing the fabric to fall under its own weight. Silk sighs as it settles. The color deepens in the sun. Soft blues, pale greens, warm creams. She smooths the surface with open palms, then steps back to observe. The cloth moves gently with the breeze. responding as though alive. Across the street, the scent of food begins to gather. Not strong, not overwhelming, just present. Warm grain, steamed buns resting beneath cloth covers, herbs crushed lightly between fingers to release their fragrance. A food vendor lifts the lid of a pot, checks the contents, then lowers it again. He wipes his hands on a cloth, already clean. Customers will come soon. There is no need to hurry them. Footsteps increase. They are uncoordinated, arriving from many directions. Merging wit. The market has settled into itself. What began as scattered preparation has become gentle continuity. The wide central path now carries a steady current of people. Not dense, not hurried, just continuous. Footsteps overlap in soft patterns. Cloth brushes against cloth. Wood creaks lightly beneath shifting weight. The sun climbs higher, casting a warm clarity over everything it touches. Colors deepen again. Reds grow richer, greens more vivid. Ceramic glazes shimmer faintly where light finds them. Yet the atmosphere does not harden. It remains open. A spice seller adjusts small ceramic bowls arranged in a careful circle. Inside them, powders rest in quiet hills. Deep amber, muted gold, soft rust, pale green. He lifts one bowl, tilts it slightly toward the sun, examining texture and color. Satisfied, he places it back exactly where it was. A woman approaches slowly. She kneels rather than stands. Brings her hand close. Does not touch. Only inhales. The scent rises gently between them. There is no rush to decide. They speak in low tones, voices blending with the surrounding murmur, until words become texture rather than sound. Nearby, a basket maker demonstrates his craft. Thin reeds bend beneath steady fingers. He threads one strand through another, pulls gently, tightens. The shape forms gradually, as though the basket has always known what it would become. A small circle of onlookers gathers. They do not interrupt. They simply watch the rhythm of hands that have repeated this motion thousands of times. Across the street, the tea merchant now pours with more frequency. Small cups pass from hand to hand. Some are purchased. Some are simply tasted. Steam continues its slow upward dance. Never hurried. Never dramatic. A young scholar pauses near the bookseller's stall. He lifts a printed sheet carefully, holding it at the edges. His eyes move slowly across the characters. Not skimming. Not rushing. The bookseller observes without intrusion. By mid-morning, The market has found its full rhythm. Not louder. Not faster. Just fuller. The central path no longer feels wide and open. Yet it never feels crowded. People move in gentle arcs around one another, adjusting without friction, creating space without speaking of it. Sunlight now rests firmly on the stone road. The coolness of early morning has faded, replaced by a comfortable warmth that settles into fabric and skin alike. A faint shimmer rises where light meets stone. The tea merchant has shifted position slightly, angling his stall so that shade covers the cups. Steam still rises, but it is thinner now, quieter. Customers linger longer. A man seated on a low stool cradles his cup and watches the steady passage of feet. He does not appear to be waiting for anyone. He is simply present. Across the way, the basket maker's hands continue their patient weaving. The form he began earlier is nearly complete. He tightens the final reed, presses gently around the rim, and inspects the symmetry. A small nod. The basket joins others already stacked beside him, each one slightly different, each one unmistakably his. A group of women pause at a vegetable stall. They lift produce one by one, weighing it in their palms. A carrot is examined, its surface brushed lightly with a thumb. A bundle of greens is shaken once, to test its firmness. They speak quietly, smiles appearing and fading like passing clouds. A decision is made. Coins exchange hands. The vendor wraps the vegetables in a simple cloth and ties it securely. Further along, a metalworker adjusts a small brazier at his side. He does not shape large tools here, only fine details. A delicate hairpin rests in his fingers. He turns it toward the light, examining the curve. With careful pressure, he adjusts it slightly, then polishes the surface until it catches sunlight. Like a drop of water, a young woman approaches. She studies the hairpin without touching it. The market does not end its morning. It softens into midday. The brightness of the sun now rests directly overhead. Shadows gather neatly beneath tables and carts. Small islands of shade that merchants and visitors share without discussion. The air feels warmer, thicker with the scent of cooked rice, brewed tea, cut herbs, sun-warmed wood. Movement continues, but its edge has smoothed. The early urgency of preparation has long faded. The fullness of mid-morning has reached its quiet plateau. Now everything simply continues. The tea merchant refills his kettle once more. His motions are slower, not from fatigue, but from familiarity. He wipes the rim of each cup before pouring. Steam rises straight upward in the still air. no longer carried sideways by passing breezes. Customers sit longer now. Some speak in low tones. Some fall silent between sentences. A pair of traders compare small ledgers, their fingers tracing neat columns of ink. They nod occasionally, adjusting a figure here, confirming a weight there. The sound of pages turning blends gently with the hum of the street. Across the path, the vegetable vendor has fewer baskets left. Gaps appear where produce once rested. The remaining greens look brighter in the concentrated sunlight. She sprinkles a small ladle of water over them. Not enough to soak. Just enough to restore their sheen. Droplets catch the light briefly, then disappear. A child returns to the mask stall, this time with a coin held tightly in his palm. He does not hesitate now. He chooses the simplest mask, one with calm eyes and a neutral expression. The vendor wraps it in cloth and ties it securely. The child walks away carefully, as though carrying something alive. The basket maker leans back slightly on his stool. For the first time all morning, his hands are still. He surveys the remaining reeds, calculating quietly how many more forms they might become. He does not rush to begin another. The tea house rests slightly apart from the street. Not hidden, but gently withdrawn. A narrow wooden doorway opens inward, shielding the interior from the brightness of the market outside. As one steps across the threshold, sound changes first. The layered hum of the street softens immediately. Footsteps become distant. Voices lose their edges. Inside, air cools. Light enters carefully, filtered through thin paper screens and wooden lattice. It does not fall sharply. It settles. The room smells faintly of warm wood, dried leaves, and clean water. Low tables rest evenly across the floor, their surfaces polished by years of quiet use. Simple stools and cushions wait beside them, placed with no sense of urgency, no expectation of fullness. The tea house does not hurry guests in. It allows them to arrive. Near the entrance, the owner moves with practiced calm. His steps are soft. His sleeves do not brush the tables as he passes. He lifts a kettle from the hearth, tests its weight, then sets it back again. The water is not ready yet, and that is fine. At a table near the window, a man sits alone. His hands rest loosely in his lap. Before him, a single cup waits. Empty. He is not impatient. He watches the slow movement of light as it shifts across the floorboards, brightening one plank, then the next. Outside, a breeze stirs briefly, causing the paper screen to whisper. The sound is barely there. Another guest enters. She pauses just inside the doorway, allowing her eyes to adjust to the softer light. Her shoulders lower slightly as the outside world releases its grip. She chooses a seat near the far wall, sets down a small cloth bundle, and sits without sound. No greeting is exchanged. None is needed. The tea house accepts her, as it accepts all things, without comment. At the hearth, the kettle begins to respond. A faint murmur from within. Not boiling, just awakening. The owner adds a small piece of charcoal. As the tea settles in the cups, so does the room. Nothing shifts abruptly. Nothing announces itself. The tea house simply deepens into its quiet. Light continues its slow movement across the floor, sliding along the grain of the wood, touching the edges of low tables, resting briefly against the legs of stools, before drifting onward. The man by the window lifts his cup again. This time, he does not watch the steam. He watches the surface of the tea itself, how it trembles faintly with each breath, how it steadies again when his hands become still. He takes another sip, slightly longer now. The warmth spreads gradually, moving inward rather than outward, as if the tea were teaching the body how to slow. Across the room, the woman at the far wall adjusts her posture. She shifts one leg beneath her robe, settling into a more comfortable position. The movement is quiet, almost invisible. Her cup remains untouched for a moment longer. She is listening. Not to words. Not to sound in the usual sense. She listens to the space between sounds. The gentle hush that fills the room, when nothing insists on being heard. The kettle murmurs softly again. Not boiling, just reminding the room of its presence. The owner rises. His steps are unhurried, each one placed carefully, as though the floor itself were listening. He lifts the kettle, tests the weight, then pours water into a small basin nearby. The sound is gentle, a thin stream touching clay. Steam rises briefly, then fades. He wipes the rim of the teapot, his cloth moving in a practice circle, then returns the kettle to the hearth. There is no urgency in replenishment. Everything arrives when it is ready. The third guest, seated near the center of the room, has not yet lifted his cup. He watches the owner instead, following each movement, as though learning something wordless. When the owner sits again, the guest finally reaches for the tea. He lifts the cup with both hands. At some point, the tea house seems to stop measuring time. There is no signal for when this happens. No clear moment when one could say, Now it has changed. It simply occurs. The sounds that once felt distinct. The murmur of the kettle. The shifting of cloth. The distant life of the street. Begin to merge into a single, gentle presence. Not silence. Something deeper. The kind of quiet that holds weight. Without pressing down. Light continues to move. But more slowly now. As if even the sun has agreed to soften its pace. The paper screens glow faintly, their surfaces warming with reflected brightness. Shadows blur at the edges, losing definition. Nothing here insists on clarity. The man by the window no longer watches the light. His gaze has turned inward, resting somewhere behind his eyes. His breathing is slow, even. He is not asleep. He is not thinking. Thought has loosened its hold. His body remembers how to rest. Without instruction. The woman at the far wall adjusts her hand slightly, placing one palm over the other. The warmth from the tea lingers in her fingers. A gentle echo rather than a sensation. She notices it fading, and does not try to keep it. Letting go feels natural here. The third guest shifts his weight almost imperceptibly. The movement is so subtle. It barely disturbs the air. Even that feels like enough. He stills again. The tea in his cup has cooled. But he does not reach for more. Temperature no longer matters. The owner remains seated near the hearth. His eyes are half lowered. Not closed. Not fixed. He is aware of everything in the room, without focusing on any single thing. The kettle has grown quiet. Water rests at its own threshold, neither cooling nor heating too quickly. Charcoal glows softly. A steady red heart. The tea house holds this balance. With ease. Outside. The world continues. Shadows shorten further. Voices rise and fall. The market shifts toward afternoon. But those sounds arrive here. The change begins so subtly that no one notices it at first. Light, which had been resting quietly across the floor, now begins its gradual retreat. Not disappearing, simply shifting. The brightness near the center table softens. Shadows lengthen slightly, stretching toward the doorway. The tea house does not resist this movement. It absorbs it. The woman at the far wall is the first to open her eyes. There is no sudden awakening. No sharp inhale. Her eyelids lift slowly, as though the room itself has invited her back. For a moment, she does not move. She allows her sight to return gently. The low tables, the shelves of tea, the faint glow of charcoal. Nothing has changed. And yet something has. She reaches for her cup. The tea inside has cooled completely now. She drinks the last sip without hesitation. It tastes different. Lighter. Quieter. She sets the cup down carefully and places both hands on the floor beside her. The simple gesture grounds her. Across the room, the man by the window shifts slightly. The inward stillness he had entered loosens its hold. He becomes aware of his body again. The weight of his shoulders. The position of his legs. He inhales more deeply this time. The breath feels fuller, as though the air itself has thickened. He does not rush to stand. He waits until the impulse feels complete. The third guest opens his eyes as well. He looks at his cup, then at the empty table in the center of the room. Light has moved away from it now. It rests in partial shade. The space feels different. Not emptier, just cooler. The owner senses the shift. He rises without drawing attention. His movements are as soft as they were at the beginning of the day. He lifts the kettle and checks the remaining warmth. The water has settled. The charcoal glows faintly. No longer bright red. He does not add more. Midday has passed its quiet peak. The woman stands first. Her robe falls into place naturally. The printing house stands along a quieter side street, not far from the tea house, yet removed from the rhythm of trade. Its doorway is narrower, its walls thicker, its windows smaller. Light enters carefully here. It does not flood the room. It filters in. Thin beams slipping through wooden lattice and resting gently across long work tables. Inside, the air carries a different scent. Not tea. Ink. Paper. Carved wood. The fragrance is dry, earthy, faintly mineral. The smell of thought made visible. The room is neither large nor cramped. It is proportioned for focus. Long wooden tables stretch across the space. Sheets of paper lie stacked in careful piles. Carved printing blocks rest on shelves, their surfaces etched with mirrored characters. Patient, precise, waiting. Near the entrance, a young apprentice stands with a cloth in hand. He wipes a table slowly, not because it is dirty, but because dust settles everywhere. His movements are deliberate. He does not rush. In the far corner, a scholar sits cross-legged on a low cushion. Before him lies an open manuscript. He does not read quickly. His eyes travel from one character to the next, pausing between lines. The space between characters is as important as the ink itself. Light rests on the page, brightening the fibers of the paper. The paper is handmade, slightly uneven, soft at the edges, It absorbs light differently than polished wood. It holds it. At the center of the room, a master printer prepares a wood block. The block lies flat on the table, its carved surface darkened by years of use. He runs his fingers gently across it, not to alter it, but to feel its depth. Each carved character rises subtly from the surface, reversed and precise. He dips a brush lightly into ink. The ink is thick but fluid, black with a faint blue undertone. He spreads it evenly across the raised surface, moving the brush in steady arcs. There is no excess. Too much ink would blur the lines. As the afternoon continues its quiet descent, the printing house becomes more inward. The street outside still exists. Voices passing, footsteps crossing stone. But they arrive here as softened impressions, their edges rounded, their urgency dissolved. Inside, attention gathers. The master printer completes another page and sets it gently upon the drying rack. He does not look at it again. Trust has replaced inspection. The apprentice moves the rack slightly, aligning it so the newest sheets catch the light evenly. He checks the distance between pages, ensuring air can move freely. Paper must breathe. At the long table near the window, one of the scholars has shifted position. He now sits with his legs folded beneath him, his back straight but unforced. Before him lies a brush, unused. He is not writing. He is considering. The text he read earlier lingers behind his eyes, not as words, but as shape and weight. He traces a single character in the air with his finger, slowly, carefully. The movement leaves nothing visible behind. That is enough. Across from him, another scholar adjusts a stack of printed pages. He aligns the edges precisely, tapping them lightly against the table until they sit flush. The sound is faint. Paper against wood. He pauses after the final tap, hand resting on the stack, as though listening for something. Nothing comes. He nods once to himself and ties the pages with thin cord. The knot is simple, functional, secure. At the center table, the master printer prepares a new wood block. This one is older. The edges are worn smooth. The carved characters show subtle softening from years of use. He examines it closely, turning it slightly in the light. Some lines are shallower now. He adjusts his inking accordingly. Ink is applied with a lighter hand, the brush held at a gentler angle. Experience guides the pressure. The apprentice watches closely, not staring, observing. Every adjustment is memorized. W. By late afternoon, the printing house no longer feels like a place of labor. It feels like a vessel. The air has changed. Not in temperature alone, but in density. Earlier, the room carried movement. Pages lifted. Ink applied. Woodblocks exchanged. Now the motions are fewer, longer, more deliberate. The master printer sits without touching the tools before him. His hands rest lightly on his knees. Ink stains mark the creases of his fingers. Fine dark lines that mirror the carved strokes of characters he has printed for decades. He is not tired. He is listening. Listening not to sound, but to completion. Across the room, the apprentice reorganizes the drying rack. Not because it needs reordering, but because he senses the day bending toward its close. Each printed sheet is lifted carefully, tested gently at the edge. The ink has set. He stacks the finished pages in neat bundles, aligning corners precisely. He presses the edges against the tabletop once, twice. Perfect. He binds them with thin cord. The knot he ties today is steadier than yesterday's. He notices this. He does not smile, but something in him settles. Near the lattice window, the scholar who traced characters in the air earlier now writes again. He has turned to a fresh sheet. The brush descends. A vertical stroke. Then another. The ink flows darker than before. He adjusts his pressure slightly. The bristles respond. Each character emerges slowly, with breath between them. He pauses after every stroke, not from hesitation, but from respect. Ink is not merely substance. It is permanence. Across from him, another scholar reads from a printed text that dried earlier. He does not move his lips. His eyes travel steadily. The page reflects faint golden light from the lowering sun. At one line, he stops. Not because it is difficult, because it is clear. Clarity requires space. He lowers the page slightly and looks toward the shelves of carved woodblocks. Night settles over the city without announcement. There is no single moment when day becomes dark. Instead, light thins gradually. Blue dissolving into indigo. Indigo deepening into near black. The printing house stands closed now. Its wooden door rests firmly within its frame. The inkstone has dried. Brushes lie still. Woodblocks wait in ordered silence. Yet nothing inside feels finished. It feels paused. Across the city, oil lamps flicker behind paper windows. Within scholars' homes, printed pages are unfolded once more. A student sits cross-legged near a small table. The page before him was pressed only hours ago. He smooths it gently with his palm. The characters are crisp, balanced, even. He reads slowly, tracing the lines with his eyes. His lips move slightly, barely forming the words. Outside his home, footsteps pass. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks once. A cartwheel turns against stone. He does not look up. The text holds him. Printing has made this moment possible. Not through spectacle, but through quiet repetition. In another part of the city, an older scholar leans near a lantern. The flame wavers softly. He adjusts the wick with a slender tool, careful not to scorch it. Before him lies a bound collection of essays. Copies produced over several months. He turns a page slowly. The paper carries the faint scent of ink and wood. He pauses at the margin. There, written in his own hand, are notes from earlier study. He reads his younger thoughts with a faint, thoughtful expression. Time exists not only in years, but in understanding. The printed page allows him to revisit himself. Elsewhere, within a modest government office, an official reviews a document printed earlier that week. Regulations, tax guidelines, instructions for local administrators. Without printing, these words would travel slowly. Copied by hand. Limited by distance. Now they move steadily across districts. Consistency grows. Clarity. Evening arrives slowly by the river. It does not fall suddenly from the sky, nor does it announce itself with sound. It unfolds. The sun lowers behind the distant roofs of the city. Its light thinning, stretching, softening as it touches the surface of the water one last time. The river receives this light without resistance. Gold becomes amber. Amber becomes rose. Reflections stretch across the gentle current, elongated and wavering, as though the day itself were dissolving into memory. Along the river bank, stone paths still hold the warmth of afternoon. Footsteps crossing them are quieter now. Slower. People move differently in the evening. Their pace no longer serves purpose alone. It serves presence. A wooden boat drifts near the shore. Its rope creaks softly as it tightens, then loosens again with the movement of the water. The sound is gentle, reassuring. A boatman adjusts the rope with practiced ease. His hands know the motion well. He does not look toward the sky. He does not need to. He feels the change in the air. Lanterns begin to appear. Not all at once. One is lit beneath the eaves of a riverside house. Its paper sides glow softly, catching the last trace of sunlight. Another follows. Then another. Each lantern adds a small island of warmth to the deepening blue of dusk. The river mirrors them faithfully. Light trembles on the surface, breaking and rejoining with each ripple. A child pauses near the water's edge. He crouches low. watching the lantern reflections dance. He reaches out, not to touch the water, but to follow the movement with his hand. The reflection moves away. He smiles faintly and straightens again. Along the far bank, the sound of conversation drifts softly. Not laughter, not argument, just voices exchanging the day. Words rise and fall gently, then dissolve into the broader hush of evening. The city behind the river begins to dim. Windows glow. Paper screens catch lamplight from within. As night deepens, the river changes its voice. During the day, it speaks in clarity. Ripples visible. Edges defined. Movement easily followed. Now, its language becomes softer. Light replaces detail. Reflection replaces form. Lanterns multiply along the river bank, their glow spreading in gentle clusters. Each new flame alters the surface of the water, adding another layer of movement, another quiet rhythm. The river does not resist. It carries the light carefully, stretching it into long, trembling lines that sway and reunite with every breath of current. A wooden bridge crosses the water nearby. Its curved silhouette is outlined by lanterns hung at regular intervals. Each one glows like a steady heartbeat. People cross the bridge slowly now, not to arrive somewhere, but to pass through the moment. Footsteps are measured. Voices are hushed. A couple pauses halfway across. They rest their hands on the railing and look down. The river below holds dozens of reflections. Some clear, some broken. Neither speaks. Their silence is not empty. It is shared. Below the bridge, boats drift gently. Some are tied near the bank, their lanterns resting low and close to the water. Others move slowly across the current, oars dipping just enough to guide direction. The sound is minimal. A soft splash, a wooden creak, a quiet exhale. Passengers sit low within the boats, wrapped in the warmth of evening air. One leans slightly forward, elbow resting on knee, chin in hand. Another sits upright, hands folded, eyes following the lanterns as they pass. No one speaks loudly enough to disturb the river's surface. Along the stone steps, families gather. They sit close together, sharing warmth, sharing quiet. A mother adjusts her child's lantern, shielding the flame from a passing breeze. The child watches intently, eyes wide, as though witnessing something sacred. When the flame steadies again, the child relaxes. Trust returns easily in this light. Night has fully settled now. The sky is no longer blue. It is vast and dark. A deep, Endless canopy stretched gently over river and roof alike. Stars hold their position steadily. The moon has risen higher, its pale light spreading in a faint silver path across the water. Lanterns still glow, but fewer now. The brightest clusters remain near the central bank and bridge, while farther downstream the lights grow sparse. Isolated points drifting slowly through darkness. The river moves more quietly at this hour. Its surface, once alive with layered reflections, now holds longer stretches of shadow. Light appears only where it is offered. Everything else rests in calm obscurity. Along the stone steps, fewer figures remain. Those who sit close to the water, their silhouettes softened by distance and low flame. Conversation has faded almost entirely. Words feel unnecessary here. A woman sits alone near the edge. Her lantern rests beside her, its glow touching her sleeve and the stone beneath. She does not watch the floating lights anymore. Instead, she watches the moon's reflection. It breaks gently with each ripple, then reforms without effort. She breathes slowly. The day no longer presses against her thoughts. It has loosened. Behind her, the city has grown quieter. Shutters are closed. Courtyards dimmed. Only a few windows still glow faintly. The world has turned inward. A boat drifts past at a distance. Its single lantern sways gently from a curved wooden beam. The oarsman moves with almost invisible strokes, barely disturbing the water. Passengers inside the boat sit wrapped in stillness. Some may be returning home. Some may simply be floating. In the quiet of night, purpose becomes secondary. Presence is enough. The wooden bridge stands mostly empty now. Only one figure crosses it. A scholar, perhaps. Judging by the long silhouette of robe and folded sleeves. There is an hour when even the river seems to whisper more softly. It comes after the last lantern has faded. After the final footsteps have retreated from the stone paths. After doors have closed and lamps have dimmed. This is the hour that belongs to no one. Not to merchants. Not to scholars. Not to children or travelers. It belongs to stillness. The river moves as it always has. Yet without reflection it appears darker, deeper. Moonlight lingers across its surface, but thinner now. Less certain. Clouds drift slowly across the sky, their shapes barely visible against the vast night. The bridge stands empty. Its lantern hooks are dark. Paper frames hang motionless. Wooden planks hold the memory of footsteps. But none cross now. The stone steps leading down to the water. Cool further in the night air. If one were to sit there now, there would be no voices to overhear. No music to drift across the current. Only breath. Only water. Far upstream, a faint mist begins to form. It rises gradually from the surface. Not thick. Not obscuring. Just enough to soften the horizon. The river and sky begin to blur together. Edges dissolve. Depth becomes suggestion. In the quiet, small sounds become noticeable. The subtle shift of current against a moored boat. A gentle tap of wood against wood. The faint rustle of leaves high above the bank. Each sound stands alone. Clear and unchallenged. The night air carries a slight chill now. It brushes against the surface of the water. And moves on. No lanterns remain to reflect. Yet the river does not feel empty. It feels complete. Light was never its purpose. Movement was never its demand. It flows regardless. Across the city, homes lie in darkness. Inside, sleepers rest. Breathing deep and even. Dreams move where lanterns once drifted. Soft, unhurried. Shifting without resistance. In one small courtyard. A door remains slightly open. Inside, embers glow faintly in a hearth.